So no matter the size of my garden, I will always find room for veg. And in my small coastal garden, I have created a special small space where I've built up the soil, because underneath my garden is just concrete and rubble. And this is just going to be a growing space for fruit and veg. And also I'm going to be doing companion planting, which is basically planting flowers mainly for pollinators. So either they're going to attract in some beautiful pollinators to help pollinate my fruit and my veg, so I'll get more for my money. But also some of these flowers will attract the predators that will prey and eat on those pesky little bugs and insects that are determined to eat my veg. One of the beauties of being able to grow veg in the open ground is that the roots can travel further to find water, and also generally, especially if you've been mulching as I have in the autumn and spring, there's going to be a lot more nutrients available to the plants, so they're a little bit more independent. When you grow anything in a container, really they have to rely on you for most of their needs. So this is my small area that I'm going to put some more veg in. So you might have heard of a campaign called Make Every Metre Matter, and that is about encouraging people to make a space a metre square in their garden or wherever could be in a community area, and fill it up with hopefully veg, but also plants that are good for wildlife. So what I've done, I've got this funny old bit of willow that's broken, but it is exactly a metre. So I've used this to measure the area. I've already got a walking onion that I planted last year, so I'm just going behind that. So this area is going to be my metre, and you will be surprised at what you can cram into a metre if you really put your mind to it. But the first thing I'm going to do is prepare the ground, because the soil is a little bit depleted because it had loads of things growing in it last year. In fact, this area had runner beans and sweet corn, and they're all quite hungry plants. So I've got rid of all the weeds. I'm going to leave this walking onion in here, which I planted last year. It's such a cool plant. I've got a couple of potatoes that obviously I didn't dig up last year, and I'm going to add some really good compost to this small area, just add a little bit more nutrients into it, because although I did mulch it in the autumn, I have had chard and what else have I, perpetual spinach growing, and in fact these only came out a few weeks ago, and I've been harvesting them up until very recently until they bolted because the weather got too hot. So let's get on and do some prep. Start preparing by raking and removing any stones, weeds or whatever that you don't really want to be there. And then I'm going to add some organic multi-purpose compost onto the top of this bed, which will help enrich it. Again, I'm just going to rake this on and also use my hands, covering the area. So the soil is looking really lovely and fresh and dark, ready for planting and
so that's
some
not
sowing.
taking long at all. And actually a metre square, because I've already got some decent topsoil in there, it's only needed 1 bag of organic peat-free compost. So that is brilliant. So the next thing is, what am I going to put in there? So I do now tend to only grow what I know I'm going to eat or cook with, and also that I know is really good for me. So I do grow a lot of greens. I grow lots of spinach and chard and kale. So what I've got to put in this small metre area is here. I've got some dwarf kale. Now, this is a dwarf kale, so it's not going to get massive. So I've just got 4 that I'm going to put in one row. Then next to them, I've got another of my favourite veg that I just adore, and that is really good for you, and that is beetroot. But I'm growing a slightly more exciting variety. I'm growing beetroot chioggia, and that is like a tie-dye t-shirt when you cut into it. So it's this kind of lovely stripes, but it's a kind of bleeding pink kind of stripes. It's really pretty. Now, another veg that I have been growing inside and then I've been hardening off, again, is another of my favourites. And it's something that a lot of people grow, a lot of people have great success with. It's something that a lot of people grow far too many of. So I've been pretty strict, and I have grown
some courgettes, and I've gone for a heritage variety because often the ones you buy in supermarkets are pretty kind of watery and tasteless. So if you're going to grow your own, go for an interesting variety. And this is called striato, and it's a stripy courgette, but it's really, really good for cooking. The final veg that I'm going to be planting today is a cucumber. Now, if you have never tasted a homegrown cucumber, honestly, this is one of the vegetables, if you grow, that will convert you into having a go at growing your own, because the difference in taste is just incredible. And if we're lucky with the way the spring and the early summer's been going, we're going to get plenty of sunshine, although maybe not today. And now begins the fun part, planting up your veg. Just make sure you make a hole that's deep enough when you're planting, and just be a little bit careful not to damage the roots too much when you're putting them in. Firm them in quite well, especially brassicas and especially in my garden, which can get really, really windy. The beetroot just needs separating, and again, be gentle. And then I'm just going to sow some seeds in. So I'm really pleased with how much veg I've managed to cram into my little metre square. I've got cucumber, courgettes, beetroot, spring onions, dwarf kale, and there's a couple of potatoes from last year. I'm also going to pop in some more radish because they grow really, really quickly. And by the time the other veg have kind of grown a lot more leaves, these will be ready to harvest. And then, as if it's not enough, I'm going to grow some nasturtiums, and they will look really, really pretty. But not just that, they attract predators and they attract the aphids. So hopefully that'll discourage the aphids from eating my dwarf kale because they'll be too busy munching on this. But I'm also going to munch on these because the flower petals are really, really nice and peppery in a salad, and it makes the salad look really, really pretty. Not just that, an extra bonus is the seed heads of nasturtiums. You can pickle them in vinegar and they taste like a caper, but a much cheaper caper and one you've grown yourself. So even though it looks like it's going to rain any minute now, my soil is so dry because we've hardly had any rain that unless we get a real substantial rainfall, which I kind of hope we don't, any little rain is just going to bounce off the top of the soil. So I'm going to give it a good soak using a watering can with a rose on it so it doesn't bury my seeds too deeply or upset the slightly delicate foliage of the beetroot seedlings. And I'm also going to plant my extra courgette and cucumber into containers using peat-free compost. So that is everything planted either in the ground or in a container from all the veg that I've got ready for today. And hopefully in a few weeks' time, I'll be able to eat and enjoy my own homegrown veg.